After a keenly contested election, the Independent National Electoral Commission declared APC's Monday Okpewolo as the next governor of Edo State. Okpewolo secured a majority of the votes, defeating the main opposition People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party to win the governorship race. His victory, however, has been met with criticism from opposition parties who allege election misconduct, vote buying, and voter suppression, among others. Civil society organizations have also called for a review of the ballot. Despite all this, Okpewolo says he is committed to moving forward with governance. While with the opposition parties threatening legal action, the final chapter of this election may yet be written in the courts. Felix Morka, APC National Publicity Secretary, joins me in the studio for more on this. Welcome to the program, Mr. Morka.
Thank you very much, Constance.
Right. So your candidate won the Edo election last weekend, and there have been celebrations everywhere. I'm sure you're elated.
Yes, very elated at the All Progressives Congress. We have every reason to be elated. It was a hard-fought, contest. And in the end, our candidate, Senator Monday Okpewolo, was declared winner of that election. And, I must take a moment to applaud the good people of Edo State for their votes in support of our party and for our candidate. Yes, so we are excited and we're looking forward to his inauguration and, his tenure of governance.
Before that election, there was a bit of a godfather-godson situation between the former governor, Mr. Adams Oshiomhole, and the outgoing governor, Godwin Obaseki. And so in this election, a lot of people fought hard to make sure that Mr. Okpewolo becomes the governor. One wonders whether he will now have the independence that he needs in order to run as a chief executive without the interference of so-called godfathers that usually degenerates into a toxic political situation.
No, certainly. At the All Progressives Congress, what you witnessed in Edo was a rallying of, all of the sectors of the party. Party primaries usually produce a lot of, tensions, sometimes even contradictions. And APC is no exception to that. We witnessed that during our primaries. But what is unique about our party is that once we were done with primaries, it was no longer about those who sought the ticket of the party. Once a flag bearer was named, I'm sure you witnessed a rallying of all of those interests and leaders and members of the party behind the flag bearer of APC. And I think that's what produced this outcome. It was the very vehement commitment of everyone, not just of the candidate himself, but of even those who opposed him, who didn't support him during the primaries, were solidly behind him. And of course also the leadership of Mr. President of our party and our national chairman and the National Working Committee. Everyone was united, not because they necessarily supported Monday Okpewolo, even during the primaries, which is a housekeeping contest, but once he became the flag bearer of the party, that was it. Everybody rallied around, and that's exactly what you saw, what you witnessed last Saturday.
So he's going to have the independence he needs to
thoroughly
run the state.
Yes, because we need him to succeed. We're not just winning. We didn't win Edo State as we've just done, so that we can hamstrung the governor, the new governor. No, we will free him to govern, because he needs to govern in the strategic best interests of the people of Edo State. It's not about any one individual, and there's no godfather who is going to stand in his way, because our party is very vigilant. We're very clear and intentional about allowing those who emerge as governors to govern for the utmost benefit of the people of the state. The good people of Edo State are in for, I think, a lot of good that this governor is going to do.
You're committed to ensure that people who are elected govern properly. That wasn't the case previously. Do you have any framework in place to make sure that doesn't happen again?
In what context? I mean, if you, I hope you're not referring to Governor Obaseki, because
yes,
Governor Obaseki in the last 4 years was not a governor of APC. He was a governor of the PDP.
Before that, okay, okay.
Yes, he was a governor of the PDP. So and he was a horrific example of a governor.
Right. Let's use your word commitment. You said everyone was committed to making sure that you won that election. Now the election is in contest. Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election, Mr. Peter Obi, calls it a mockery of democracy. The Labour Party candidate, Mr. Olumide Akpata, said it was transactional. You know, there were so many allegations of vote buying. The PDP says it's heading to court because it does not agree with what transpired, allegations of tampering of results. What's your take on all of these reactions that have followed this victory that you are celebrating?
Now, first of all, Peter Obi is obviously, I think everyone who bothers with Nigeria's politics knows that Peter Obi is a serial complainer. He will not accept the result of any election that is not in his favor or in favor of candidates that he supports. He's done that since the 2023 election. Peter Obi has been a consistent denier of that election, and now he has a new pet project to deny the Edo election. We don't reckon with Peter Obi because he wasn't a candidate in Edo, and he was not a voter. So whatever he thinks of that election is absolutely irrelevant. He can speak all he wants. That's up to him. About those who were contestants in the election. Now, I think that Olumide Akpata and Asue Ighodalo, they have legitimate interests in that election. So if they are not satisfied with the outcome of that election, they must do what they must do, which is to take this matter to court and go there to prove the allegations that they are bandying around right now, because that's what they're doing. They're simply throwing a lot of things, unsubstantiated allegations. When an election is done, yes, psychologically people are wounded because you went into it to win. So when you don't win, understandably you can be sore. But I think that I have not listened to any of them articulate or furnish any sort of reasonable evidence of all of the high-sounding allegations that they make. And it's not enough to throw those things out there. When you get to court, it's not about the headlines. You must break down the headlines into credible, realistic evidence before the courts to support your argument that you won the election or that there was some foul play or some manipulation as they allege. So, we're not bothered by that. When they go to court, we will, of course, meet them in court and also present our side of the story. And that's the beauty of democracy. He who alleges must prove. You can't make allegations that you are not able or willing to prove. So I hope that as they're talking, they're also, spending time, probably more time, to actually, marshal their evidence so that they can present that. And the courts are constitutionally empowered to adjudicate these issues. So for them, I will, say, if they want to go to court, of course, they're very welcome to do that. But Peter Obi needs to simply just, shut down because this is not his business.
Right. Go to court has become a common line in Nigeria. And it seems that our courts have become the major decider of elections. Are you happy with that? And the elections are becoming highly litigious. It's expensive, first of all. It overburdens the judicial system. And some people do not have confidence in the courts in the sense that they think some of the judges are credibility challenged. So you can imagine why people prefer that elections are concluded at the polls and they do not have to be dragged. Plus, it is time consuming as well.
No, all of those are excellent points that you make. But even in families, when two siblings disagree, they go to their parents to plead their case and to because see, I don't think this idea, I hear this, quite a lot. I'm a lawyer, and I don't, really think that it's such a great idea to suggest that the courts are simply almost like, some meddlesome interlopers in election cases. No, they are legitimate creations of law for a reason. Because, an election that involves hundreds of thousands of millions of voters with agencies charged with the duty of monitoring that election, any one or a combination of factors can go wrong. And when they go wrong, thank God for the courts. That's why the judicial arm is a branch of government, is the third arm of government, following the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. It's not an afterthought. So when in a democracy you have an election and there's a dispute, Nigerians should learn to understand that courts are there, not just for the elections, they're there for everything. If I buy land from you and it goes wrong, or we do business, it goes wrong, we should go to the court. I shouldn't, come after you to start to punch you because I'm stronger. No, we cannot resort to that, primordial, mode of, settling disputes. The courts are there. These candidates who lost the election, if they choose to take advantage of their legal rights, to explore recourse mechanisms that the courts offer, they should do so. And whatever the outcome may be, we all should be prepared to accept that as a legitimate, part and parcel of the electoral process. The courts are a part of the electoral process. If the authority that jurisdiction is, invoked, they must be enabled to adjudicate and settle that dispute. Because otherwise, what are the options? Take to the streets?
But
I think not.
But can you see why people would prefer that we do not drag ourselves through the courts because of the time that it takes? I mean, the so-called Western democracy that Nigeria and a lot of African countries practice, when you go to those places, majority of the election cases do not end up in court. So is your part, are you worried about this? Is your party worried about this? Is it more important to go to court than to have transparent elections from the beginning?
But Constance, see, the problem actually is not so much about the process of election or what the umpires do or don't do. The real problem, I think, that resides in the nature, in human nature, especially in, our own, sort of, if you will, historic experience as a country in our own democracy. People just don't know how to accept defeat. Now, think about it. Every time that, say, Labour Party or the PDP wins an election, they celebrate the judiciary. They hail INEC and they hail, everything about the election. How come every time they lose, there is this same, uproar? So the problem is not that people go to court. The problem is just the unwillingness of some contestants and parties to accept what is so self-evident, that they lost the election. For instance, Peter B has just called it state capture. Now, where does Akpata, who came, not almost like an infinitely remote third?
Can I also add that the observers also wrote their reports and also faulted some of what happened.
Are you referring to Yaga Africa?
So it's not only...
What observers? Yaga Africa?
It's not only... Yaga Africa was not civil society organization. There were so many observers on that election. So it's not only the politicians.
No, see, now let me say this. I am one of the, if you will, veteran leaders of civil society. That's my background. So I am familiar with that sector. That's my sector. I spent, this is going to 36, 37 years in that sector. Now, and I have a lot of respect for my colleagues who are, in the sector. But the point is, in every situation, you have clear delineation of mandate. When you, as an election observer, accredited by INEC, not by yourself, you didn't just go into the election, you were accredited by INEC with a clear mandate to perform in that election. When you go beyond your mandate to start to meddle in matters that don't concern you, that actually verge on the edges of the statutory authority of INEC, to begin to declare results or second guess the result declared by the statutory body, now you begin to cut a different program altogether. Your intervention at that point should be frowned upon by any right-thinking person. Because if INEC declares result A and a civil society organization, by whatever name called, declares result B, what you do, you send this, mixed signal. And some of the people at home are not, as discerning to be able to say, this is INEC with all the powers. Therefore, let's focus on INEC. No, you create this confusion. And I think that's what some of these, entities are doing. And today I issued a statement responding specifically to, Yaga Africa to say, look, you are beyond your call of duty. Your duty is to observe the elections. If you have any concern that you noticed anything or observed anything, that's why it's called observation. You are not an election manager like INEC. INEC is the only sole statutory election manager in this country. And whatever result they've declared, there's only one other body that has the power to review it. That is judicial review. Those are the courts that have the authority to review what INEC has done. It is not, liable to, Yaga Africa or anybody else to review that. You can say what you want, but you're speaking to the air. Only those actions taken through the judicial system are able to begin to interrogate, what INEC has done. And if in the end the courts make decisions one way or the other,
right,
as we've shown with decisions that have come even against our party, we've been, completely, I think, submissive to the rule of law,
right,
to respect that.
President Tinubu says that the outcome of the Edo election indicates that Nigerians approve of the policies of the APC. Critics disagree and say what happened in Edo was a reflection of the local politics. What's your take on that?
Disagreement of critics is part of our democratic, liberty. People are free to disagree. But the fact of the matter is that, an election was called. The candidate of APC, that is also the ruling party at the national level, was elected by the people of Edo State. And what is funny is that there's no one, whether the contestants or even the observers, who have come up with to say, oh, this election was so mad that the people couldn't vote. No, quite to the contrary. Both, Aswa Igodalo and, Olumide Akpata were united in their endorsement, in their approval of at least the process itself of the election. Yes, they may have said, okay, the result was declared or it was collated, whatever. They may have said that. But all I'm saying is that the people of Edo State spoke loudly. Their voice decibel was deafening. The vote for the APC was remarkable. And these are people who also are aware that the APC is the governing party at the national level, and that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our president and the leader of our party, is the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of this country. Therefore, if in this day, a couple of days ago, they came out and voted overwhelmingly in favor of our party, critics can say what they wish, but I take it, and I think most reasonable Nigerians will take it as an endorsement of the direction of this government, because yes, things, I know what the background to that question, I know what it is. Things are hard, the economy, but yes, when you renovate any building, if you renovate the studio, you're going to make a mess. You make a mess so you can make it better. This president is committed to addressing the deep fundamental problems of Nigeria,
right,
and set it straight so that we can actually make progress and build prosperity.
I have to take you back very quickly to that observer discussion again, very quickly. You do know that when you accredit observers, it's part of their job to observe and also share the report, which is what they have done. So you should not quarrel with the sharing of that report. Very briefly.
No, very briefly.
Don't
No. I didn't say that, and I hope I wasn't understood to have said that, because that's not what I meant to say, and that's what I didn't say that, certainly. What I said was that, yes, share your observation, but your observation should not be to say that INEC manipulated the result. When you say that, you are not sharing your observation. You are outside of your range. You are completely beyond your mandate. That is not observation. Observation is not about result. It's about process. You audit the process, speak to the process, But when INEC has said this is the result, you don't come and say, INEC, you that has the statutory authority to declare results, that you're wrong and you manipulate. You see, manipulation is a criminal allegation. You don't make that lightly. When you suggest that INEC has committed or is engaged in the perpetration of a crime, then you better be prepared to prove, show evidence. INEC has every right to proceed against anybody who is alleging that they committed a crime in the course of the election in Edo State. And I disagree very vehemently about that.
Right. Is the APC open to a recount or a review of that election? Because people have called for that.
No. You see, people calling for that by people, I don't know who the people are. I've not seen any nobody calling for that.
Yeah.
Well, look, whatever CSOs that are calling for that,
right,
they don't have the authority to call for a recount. If Aswa Igolado and Olumide Akpata, assuming that there's a constitutional or electoral act facility to call for a recount, they're welcome to follow that path. But I think that, at this point, quite frankly, once elections are concluded, INEC becomes, substantially functions official, and it is now up to the courts to, undertake that adjudication I referred to earlier, to review what had transpired and to see the extent to which it was or was not in compliance, substantially at least, with the laws of our land.
Since we are on elections, we'll have other elections in other states and then the general election in 2027. Talk to us about the plans of your party to pursue electoral reforms. Do you have any plan to rejig the Independent National Electoral Commission under Professor Mahmoud Yakubu or not? Are you thinking about that? Because this is very important for Nigerians.
Electoral reform for us at APC is an unfinished business. We're committed to it. As a matter of fact, what's really interesting is that this APC has done a lot of good to our electoral system. BVAS, IREV, all of those innovations that we now, I think, even latch on to critique elections under the administration of, our party, are innovations that were introduced by APC. The PDP in 16 years did not lift a finger to change the way elections are done. But we have done this to, attempt to create opportunities for more transparency. So, nobody has done that. We have done that, more than anyone else in the history of our democracy. So my answer to your question is that, yes, we've done that. We're committed to doing more.
Will the current INEC remain as it is?
Constance, look, it's not, I don't think this conversation should be about INEC. Right. That's victimizing.
But INEC is one of the most important organizations.
No, INEC is.
It is.
Just like every other institution of our democracy is. The National Assembly is. The executive branch is. The judiciary is. INEC is just another one of those entities that were created to advance our democratic, consolidation.
But if you do not have transparent elections, if INEC doesn't run elections properly, you cannot then have, whether it's the executive or the National Assembly that you speak of.
Constance, if you are asking that INEC should, hold itself to a standard of perfection, listen, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Arise TV is also imperfect.
Nobody's speaking of perfection. No,
that's what it is. Because, whatever INEC, some of the governors in the PDP, even the Labour Party governor in Abia, Governor Oti, were products of elections conducted by INEC. So what are we talking about? Is it because APC wins an election, therefore we must tear INEC down? You know what? The premise of that question, I think, is flawed. And we must reject it. Because, we cannot, toss out every institution of our democracy because it doesn't favor certain political, opinion. That will be a recipe for, I think, a decimation of our democracy. And we should disregard that. We shouldn't take that seriously.
Your party's national chairman, Alhaji Ganduje, spoke about the coming elections in Edo, Ondo, and Rivers. Yes. Anambra. Yeah, Anambra and Rivers. And he says he wants to use the winning formula, so-called winning formula in Edo State for these other states. Does APC want a one-party state in Nigeria?
No, APC doesn't want a one-party state. No, we don't. And that's not what our chairman was referring to.
No, I'm just asking generally.
Okay, generally speaking, no, APC does not desire a one-party state. We are not the PDP that declared that, for 60 years they would hold sway, as the ruling party. That was their mantra. That is not our mantra. We take every election seriously, and what our chairman was simply saying was that, the level of unity and commitment, the total commitment of every actor at the state level, at the national level, you saw the National Assembly members, in Edo State, everybody was there to rally for the party. That we will continue to build the unity of the party so that, while the Labour Party and the PDP are falling to pieces, can't even govern themselves, their own internal affairs, they can't manage it, and they want to manage Nigeria, that we will continue to work hard to end the peace of our party, and with our peace and unity, go into those elections and hopefully win. That's what he said.
But he also speaks of this policy, said demarginalization policy of the Southeast. So he implies that the Southeast has to become APC in order not to be marginalized within the country. This is what was reported about
every political party.
Must the Southeast, states become APC?
Constance, every political party has every right to aspire to win an election. So I would suggest, look, show me where in the constitution of my country it says that after you have won 20 states, you should stop to contest elections so that other parties can win. Is that what this is about? No, there's no way in the world, not in the United States. The Democrats want to win. They contest every election with the intention of winning. But they know they can't win everything because, the other parties are also contesting vigorously. So I think this conversation should actually return to the brass tacks, to the original basis, which is that Labour Party and the PDP should, work hard to get their hands together rather than point fingers like, the governor of Bauchi, was doing recently. And I had to respond to him. And I said, look, you know what? Just back off.
Right.
You have a problem in your party. Fix your problem and stop pointing fingers at the APC. If they spend more time thinking inwards to figure out solutions to their problems and not focus too much on APC, maybe they might begin to get ahead. But right now, I think they are completely dysfunctional.
Right.
And if they remain so, unfortunately for them, we may continue to win elections not because anybody is doing anything unusual, but because we simply, going into those elections united and committed to win.
Nigerian politics is often viewed as dirty, messy, and dangerous, especially for people of decent character and competence. So they shy away from joining because they cannot deal with the craziness there. And it's important that this type of people are encouraged to join politics.
Absolutely.
What's your party doing to change this? Does your party even have what it takes to bring about this change that is needed?
Yes, because that's a very important question. And this is beyond politics. I said to my friends and people I know, I said, look, I don't care what you do. Be a banker, be, an astronaut. It doesn't matter. But take an interest in, how decisions are made in your neighborhood. A lot of people who are successful, men, women, don't know where the, ward offices of any party in their local government or in their environment is located. They need to take more interest because, you see, you may be smart all you want, but if you don't participate and you allow the business of your community and, your local government to be decided by people you think are less than you, unfortunately for you, you will swim in the mess that they make if they decide to make a mess. And I think that's really a point. It's not just for APC. Everybody should take that seriously. We should take participation, democratic participation, more seriously and understand that it makes meaning. See, for instance, I tell people, and that's part of my own, understanding of democracy. When you focus too much on, whatever it is, and you forget that the internal processes of the parties are even more important than this general election, then you don't understand democracy. Because, at the end of the day, APC produces, candidate A and candidate B and C. Once they are created to run, you don't have a choice. Whether you vote or you don't vote, right. One of those three, however good or however bad they may be, will be your, governor or local government chairman or whatever. And at that point, voting or not voting or voting one way or the other, actually, ultimately, makes very little difference. And I think that we need to figure that out.
And a follow-up to that, elections are very expensive. Who has the bags of money that is required today to run elections? we need something to be done about this. What is your party specifically doing about this? Because you're also involved. I mean, during primaries, a lot of money is spent.
It's a lot of money. But, you know, look, if you notice, in the United States, where that is considered the cradle of, you know, modern liberal democracy, with, you know, the Vice President Kamala Harris and, you know, former President Donald Trump, you can see, you know, when the enthusiasm among Democrats, you know, I mean, completely, skyrocketed. You know, Vice President Harris began to raise enormous sums of money. Democracy is not cheap. It's an expensive business. You know, because, you know, parties have to take charge and pay for all of those things they must do.
However,
they're not
spending their personal money. That's the difference.
Look, Donald Trump is not spending his personal money.
Right.
Neither is Kamala Harris. Neither is the PDP necessarily. Neither is APC. That is just the nature of democracy. Because when I believe that this party A, is my favorite party that is most likely to give effect to my aspirations, then I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is to support that party to win. So, you know, personal contributions is also part of it. If I have, 10 million, I want to give 2 million to a party of my choice. That, I think, is also my democratic, liberty to give that money to support my party or a party I support, in order to achieve whatever objective that they have set that accords with my own worldview of what needs to happen for a better country.
Mr. Felix Morka, National Publicity Secretary of the APC, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Constance. Yeah. Appreciate it.